Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video here today. And actually what we'll be doing, we'll be building a simple to-do list site. So where users can add a to-do list, a bunch of lists that they wanna achieve maybe by the end of the day or by the end of the week, you know. So actually it's gonna be a simple crash course. Anyone with the basic knowledge of HTML, CSS and JavaScript can really browse through these explanations and understand it. Also, I'll be leaving links to the source code here of this particular project here. So if you really need this, you can check that out too. And then I'll be also leaving a link to the live preview to the live side of this particular project. So let's start development.
So I'll be using Visual Studio Code here. I'll begin by creating three files, one for HTML, one for CSS, and then one for JavaScript. So I'll come here. So I'm setting up my developer environment. So index.html for the HTML file, and then one more style.css for the CSS. So this is HTML and CSS, but we're gonna be adding JavaScript so to implement functionality. So I will add one more too. So main.js for the JavaScript, right? So let's begin now. So I'll close this. Welcome, and I will close this. So now what we actually gonna do is we're gonna link our HTML to our CSS and then to our JavaScript. So I will use the usual shortcut, that is the exclamation mark, and then I'll press tab. So I'll change the default here from document to my to-do list. Okay, so now I will come here, I will link my CSS so to style.css, and then my JavaScript, that is preferably at the bottom of my HTML document before the closing tab of the body. So main.js. So if I click on this will take me to style.css, and then if I click on the main.js, it will take me to main.js. So everything is set up now. We just have to start development. So one more thing is that I will preview what we're gonna be coding here. So I will just set this up here. Okay, this is fine. So the first step is we're gonna create a container, a div element. So I'll give it a class name of container. So container, and then inside this container here we'll use the form. So I will get rid of this action because we are not going to be submitting this form to anywhere. We are just gonna do everything here. So I will write this input type of text. So the name is not that really necessary. I'll remove it. So I'll give this ID of question. So we'll use this ID to reference this later when we reach to JavaScript. One more is input type submit. So I'll add this, that is add this. So now we are done with the form. So let's move on to one more tab here, one more HTML element here, that is the UL on ordered list. So you will be using this here when we reach to JavaScript. So one more thing before moving on to JavaScript is I will go ahead and style my I will style my HTML. So when we reach onto JavaScript, it will only be functionality. So I'll do a couple of styling here. First, I will style my container. So my container, I will center my container. So I'll use this left 0, right 0, and then margin auto. So I will also give this box shadow 4 pixels, 30 pixels RGB. So I will change all this to 0.4. I'll give it I'll give this let's say a padding 0.5 7 RAM. So I'll also give it a width of 30 RAM. Okay, so that's perfect. So let's move on to our form. So inside the form, so now before we have only two elements. So we have input type for text, and then input type for submit. So I will style my form here. I will set a display of flex, and then my flex direction will be row. So row, yeah. And then I will target my input type of text. So input type for text. So what this is actually saying is that any input field that has a type of text, go ahead and apply this styling here. So the first is we're gonna clear out the outline. So I'll set the outline to none, and then let's give this a padding of 0.5 RAM. Yeah, so it resizes dynamically. So one more thing, give this a border of blue, border color. That should be border color of blue. Yeah. So let's also target the input type for submit. So input type for submit, and then we'll give this a border of none. We'll give this background color of blue, and then a color of white. So this is, we are actually improving here. So as you can see, so also my form, I will justify content center. So I will center this here. So as you can see, this is center. So one more thing is that I will add two more attributes in the input type text. So one is autofocus. The cursor will be blinking automatically, so I do not need to type in for it to start. If I refresh this, you see the autofocus. It was actually not working in the Visual Studio Code preview, but here if you pay attention to the autofocus, it's here blinking, so I do not need to type in this. If I refresh this, it's still there, and then my placeholder here. So that works perfectly. So let's get back to our code. So one other thing we need to do is that when I create my JavaScript, when I start writing my JavaScript code, I'll be creating a new HTML element called the li, the list element. So I will go ahead in advance and style this. So when I create the element, it will automatically adapt to the styling in the CSS code here. So I will give this list type of none. I'll give this a background color of blue, color white, and then I'll also give it a padding of 0.4 RAM. So we actually, one more thing is text align center. So we are done with our HTML and CSS. So this is actually what you do. Now let's move on to JavaScript to make this functional. So I'll write a comment here. So this is obviously not affected by the browser here. It's basically for you, the developer, or for people reading your code. So this is my JavaScript code. Okay, spell that wrong. This is my JavaScript code. So now if you pay attention in our HTML, there is this form tab here, these two form. So and then inside the form, the form has input type of submit. So we are going to write in our JavaScript code that when this form is submitted, what should we do? So document.query selector. What this query selector does is that it picks a particular element. You just have to specify the type of element. So in the HTML DOM, document.query selector, that is form, and then on submit, that is when the form is submitted, function. So this is one way of writing functions. You might also see other developers using this. So it still works. It's all the same here, the arrow function, but I will stick with the previous one I wrote. So dot on submit function. So now we have to get our HTML DOM elements here. So the first one is this input type text, which have an ID of question here. So we say let's input value. So this is going to be camel case. Let input value equal to document dot get element by ID. So get element by ID, and then we have to specify the name of the ID, that is question here. It's already here. So one other element we need to get is the UL here. So this one here, we need to get it on ordered list. So let UL, I'll give it the same name, equal to document.query selector UL. So that is, you also get one. And one thing we need to do also is to create a new element in our DOM, in our document. So let li, that is the list, equal to document dot create element, and then we need to specify the name of the element. In our case is li, the list. Okay, so here I will add a comment here. I'll say setting of our HTML DOM. Okay, so now after this we need to use okay, one more thing also is let my value equal to document dot, sorry, supposed to be input value dot value. So what we're actually doing here is the value of this. So this is only the input here, text, but the value of this should be equal to my value here. So if this is less than 1, that is, if this is true, go ahead and run this code. Actually right now I haven't entered anything, so let me try to submit this form. So this is the alert here, that is please enter an input field, that we actually done. Else if it is false, so go ahead and run this other code here. So li.inner.html, that is the content of our li, that is equal to our input value dot value here. So this is the value that we already assigned here. So the value of this input value, that is the same as my value here. So my value, and then what you actually need to do is we have to append this now with the parent element. So that child element is the li here, and then the parent element is ul, the on ordered list. So on ordered list ul dot append child. So the child here is li. So let's test and see if this actually works. So I'll open this, and then I'll type going to school, and then I'll click on add task. So it actually works. So going to school. But let's do something else. If after typing this it's pretty boring to see this text here, so let's go ahead and remove that. So we have to say input value again dot value, the value of the input value equal to nothing, and empty strings. So now what we're actually doing is all this block of code here, let me highlight this, all this block of code is running only after when this form here is submitted. So after this form is submitted, all this value of code should run. So now if I, let me increase this again. Okay, so I will add this now, going to school, So if I click on add task, so now we have nothing else. So this is because also this styling here is because of the CSS code that we actually applied here. So if I add another field also, going to the market, so click on add task, so it also adds and then it clears on everything. So this is a simple form, but let's get back to here. Now here we actually done with coding, here we actually done with JavaScript rather. Now let's move on to CSS and make it responsive, more responsive. So if I happen to minimize this, you see all these resizes dynamically. Let's try and do that here. So implementing responsiveness, we're gonna use media queries. So at media screen, and so we give this a max width. So what is actually saying, if our viewport is less than this value here, go ahead and run this code here. So we give our container that we already have container, we just give it a width of 80%. So now if you notice, it just resizes to 80% of the screen and everything works perfectly. So if I go ahead also and add my tags here, let's say going to the market, and then if I click on this, it works. So let's change this animation here. Our input type submit, we just give this a cursor of pointer. So now if I try to hover, this is a pointer. Also let's just give it input. We're just doing some animation here, but we're actually done with the coding. Input type submit, so hover, if it is hovered, so let's just give this a background color of crimson. So let's give this animation, sorry, transition, so a transition of 0.6 seconds. So if I hover over this, it takes time, so now I'll save this. So let's try and see what we actually done here. So this is actually our to-do list here. It's a simple basic one. So if you are a beginner in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you can easily catch up on this. You can add on anything. I'm just typing any random text, it just works perfectly. Everything works perfectly. But let me try and open this in our browser so we can also see the result of our alert, because the alert actually doesn't work here. So this is our version in the web browser. So if I try to submit this without writing anything, so please enter an input field. This is the alert we use in our if else statement. So if I try to add some random text here, any kind of random text, and then submit any random text, so actually this works. So this is our simple to-do list.
Was actually all for today's tutorial. So as you can see, it's a simple crash tutorial. So anyone with the basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript can really browse through this and understand the explanations. I have also left the link to the source code of this particular project here. So do check that out if you really need it. So see you guys next time.